We're going to plan your best life and how to achieve your biggest goal. And in order to know what goal is going to be the best goal for you to even focus on, we have to do some work up front. And here's the thing. You might think, I already know what my goal is. I want to lose 30 pounds. I've been wanting to lose 30 pounds for the last 3 years. It's not happening. Show me how to make that happen. 30 pounds. Let's do that in 90 days. I get it. And so what happens when we want something and we really, really, really want it, and we know like this is something, our desire is pretty intense. Sometimes we think we know what we want so clearly, and when you're ready to take some action, you think like that's enough. The action, the desire is pretty intense, and you're ready to start, like the perfect time. It's like New Year's Eve or it's a Monday. That's what I used to do when I was 40 pounds overweight. Every Monday, I knew like it was going to be this diet. This was how I was going to do it. I'm going to start on Monday because that's the magical day. And my desire was so strong that you would think that would make it successful. And we do that a lot. We think we know exactly what we want. We know how we're going to get there. And we just pick the right time. And that's going to be the right recipe to succeed and actually make that transformation. So why is it that it doesn't happen over and over and over and over again? It took me 5 years to finally start to take care of my body in a way that actually worked. And I'm telling you, it wasn't the actions. It wasn't the diet. It wasn't what I did. There is one key ingredient. And I'm going to tell you a little story, because once I finished outlining this, this workshop, let's get into presenter. I thought of this story of being 12 years old. I was in 7th grade, and oh my God, what I saw was that the exact same key ingredient in what I'm going to share with you at the beginning of this webinar, like this key ingredient is responsible for any transformation to be successful. You need all the other factors, like the other components are important. And these are things that I'm going to get into, and how to know what actions to take and planning it. But this key ingredient is everything. And without it, you will not have a transformation. Sometimes with it, you literally don't need anything else. You don't need to take any action. You don't even need to have any conversations about it. Your life changes. People change, situations change, and it just happens with this one piece. So when I was in 7th grade, now many of you know my story. I did not grow up in a great neighborhood. I went to a school with kids, like a lot of kids maybe come from better homes and families and all of that. But where I came from, there was just, I grew up on welfare. There was a lot of abuse in the home, and just things that my self-worth probably was not that great. But also in the neighborhood, I had to not just fend for myself, but growing up in that neighborhood, like I had to sort of, you have to make a stand to kind of, to not be one of the weak ones. And I'm a little girl. And so in the neighborhood, believe it or not, like I felt fine. I had, my friends, and I didn't let anyone mess with my sister. And somehow like, I mean, it was just sort of the dynamic of where I grew up. And it's so interesting when I think back, because I did get into a lot of physical fights. And I mean, I know a lot of people that they never even got into one physical fight in their life, but where I came from, that happened a lot. And at school, there were these 2 girls that used to really give me, they began to give me a hard time. This was a temporary situation, but it was excruciating. They were relentless. They were bullying me. And one of the girls was kind of the the muscle, and the other one was the mastermind. So that's kind of how I look at it now. But um, really, the girl kind of like telling the other girl what to do. That girl was really big. Like she probably was at least a foot taller than me, and she wasn't really the smarts of the operation. She just kind of did what her friend was kind of pushing her to do. And for some reason, they singled me out and gave me a really hard time. And I remember on this particular day, especially, I wore hand-me-down clothes and I wore clothes from Salvation Army. And it was just a, excuse me, now it's cool. I can, to shop at Salvation Army. Like back then, it wasn't. And it was because we had to. And this sweater I loved so much. It had ruffles on the sleeves. They were really giving me a hard time about this sweater. Now, the thing is I think I had decided before school this day, I had had enough. I was going to make a stand. And I just knew, like I had some experience with that, but for some reason, the dynamic of what was happening here, I was the weak one and I was getting bullied. And it was something that continued until I just couldn't take it anymore. And I knew I was going to stand up to them. I was going to fight back. And all day, I knew that when they approached me, I was going to make a stand. And my heart was beating out of my chest. I was really, I remember it clearly, that feeling. This was a long time ago. I mean, this is probably more than 25 years ago. And I made a stand. It was, I think of Elsa, like she just in Frozen, like my daughter reenacts it because there's so much power to this statement. And it's your enough moment where it's just like, enough. And you just say, stop. Like, no more. Like, you are so crystal clear. You will not have this anymore. Like, this is not going to happen anymore. So in this situation, I had my Elsa moment. I said, enough. I remember we were on the staircase. I just stood right back up to her, and here I am, and here she is. And I just stood my ground and I fought. Like I knew I was willing to fight this huge girl because I just couldn't take this anymore. And it didn't go so well. She kicked my butt. She was confused at first. She was a little startled. And in that moment, it seemed like a very big mistake. It did not work out the way that I hoped it would. But it did stop. After that, they just kind of went away. And this is not to talk about, the issue of bullying and how to handle it or anything, but I will tell you that it was not my action of actually standing up to her. And a lot of times we take an action and we think that's the one, like that's the right action. But then what happens is it doesn't work out the way we think it's going to work out. And then we give up because we think, what's the point? I took these actions, it's not working out because we're just seeing the results of these actions. And actions have results and they might not be what we expect them to be in that moment. But here's why I believe that it actually transformed this situation. And when I look back at all the other forks in the road, and every time I created a better life for myself over and over and over again, and coming from that girl on welfare, and every single transformation I've had along the way, things don't happen overnight. But as I've looked back at every fork in the road, it was not my actions. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't the right timing. It wasn't just sheer luck. As much as I'd love to believe it's my faith, that's not even enough. Those are all parts of the process. The absolute one key ingredient is the crystal clear decision. And for some reason, it takes what it takes to get to that point. But unfortunately, and I'm going to get into this, a lot of us spend a lifetime unable to make that crystal clear decision. So I want to give you some steps to take. At the front end of this webinar, we're going to talk about some logistics, like how do you actually get to that place where you are able to make a crystal clear decision. So we're going to get into your plan of how to actually move forward with your crystal clarity, because with that, you're going to need to know how to stay with that, because once you get there, the thing is, I made that decision that day in 7th grade. I went to school knowing no matter what, I was going to stand up, and this was enough. Like, I knew, I made a decision within myself. It was enough. I went to school, took some actions, didn't work out the way I thought it was going to. But I did not let go of that decision. That result right there didn't matter. I had already made the decision. That was going to be my new thought no matter what. It was going to be inevitable, one way or another. This was not going to continue. And I didn't understand what I was doing at the time, but I could see how it has repeated itself throughout the rest of my life. And now here I am, mid 40s. And there are so many times where I could look back and realize life got better because of this one key ingredient. And when it didn't get better, it was because I did not yet have this one key ingredient. And it takes what it takes. I think that you have to be unhappy enough with what is actually happening. There have been, but that's not enough. You could be so miserable with the way that things are. You could be so unhappy because you can't fit into your jeans anymore, and you are miserable day after day after day, just hating, things about that. You could hate your boss day after day after day. It's not about that. That's a part of it. But what happens is when you actually make a decision in the right way, it allows you to change everything, including people around you and situations. It is if the universe opens up a whole new galaxy, like literally lays down the red carpet to say, there you go, it was so easy. I just wish you had done that sooner, because I didn't want to see you suffer through all of that. That to me is the way I can kind of characterize what I believe happens. Like, we get our crystal clear decision all set. Like, that's something that happens. There's been times where I've been so unhappy with some part of maybe something in our, at home with family, or like with my marriage or something. I have tried to talk to my husband. I could look back and think, I talked to him like 23 times about the same thing, but I hadn't yet gotten clear on what I wanted and why I wanted it. And there have been very specific situations in the last few years, because now I consciously use these skills, where I realize, like, I am so not happy with this, and I keep thinking it's going to change, but I haven't yet gotten crystal clear. And I get that clarity of my decision of what I want. And wouldn't you know, it literally is hardly even a conversation. Everything changes. My husband, like, whatever was happening just goes away, and it just happens effortlessly. So if you only do that one thing, you can go now and you can just go on with your day in 2020. And whenever you're watching this, like, you can just rest assured, like, you can get to that point, everything will change for you. But what I'd like to do is actually take you through the steps to get that crystal clarity, and then what to do from there. Now, the thing is that 76% of people truly regret things in their life that go deep. So we all have regrets. There's one type of regret that discourages people the most. And the unhappiness from this type of regret lasts longer, more than any other regret. Now, this was a study done where most people said that they regretted things that they didn't do far more than the things that they did do, even if the things they did turned out badly. So basically, you could make mistakes, you could do the wrong thing, you could, like take the action, and like I did in 7th grade, and it blows up in your face, and you're like, but the regrets aren't by taking the wrong actions. The regret is not taking the action. So research shows that most people, 72% of people, feel regret relating to their ideal self. I'm going to get into that specifically to tell you what that means. When asked to name their single biggest life regret, 76% of people cited an action not taken that would have helped them realize their ideal self. Now, there is our ideal self and our actual self. Our actual self is who we think we really are, and these are our traits and abilities as we see them and how we are in this world. Our ideal self, this is our traits and abilities and accomplishments that we would like to possess, like what's calling us. These are our goals and our hopes and our dreams. Now, there's one other self that we're at, play with. This is our ought selves, the traits and abilities we think we should possess, what we're supposed to do, basically who we think we should be. And if you consider your responsibilities, your obligations, we don't always measure up in those areas, but that's our ought self. So you have your actual self, your ideal self, and your ought self. There are some regrets when it comes to what we think we should do, so our ought self, but that is only 28%, which is very little compared to our ideal self. Now, because my job is to help you make important changes, I'm going to give you the fastest route to living as your ideal self. Now, living as your ideal self means that you don't live with regrets. You want to be the best version of yourself, and the greatest way to achieve this is to really understand your values. So the fastest way to achieve important changes aligned with your ideal self is to get crystal clear on your values. So a lot of this in the first part of this webinar is going to be centered around clarity. Once you have the clarity, the rest is easy, my friend. It is so easy. So right now we are going to just talk about your values, what means the most to you, what you need to prioritize. There's a workbook that goes along with this webinar. So in your email or on the page where you accessed this webinar, make sure that you click that link and open up the workbook. You can print it out if possible right now so that you have it next to you. But if you don't already have it, like just do that when we're done here so that you can actually take some time, and we'll walk through things here, but take the time to do the values worksheet. So it's not going to take you long to do that, but it's a necessary step so that you can move forward and really pick the best goal for yourself. If it's not meaningful as far as your ideal self goes and your what is the most meaningful to you as far as the qualities of life, it's probably not going to happen. You're not going to get the crystal clarity, and you're not going to be willing to take the actions when things don't work out the way you would hoped. So what's important to you now also may change, let's say in 90 days or next year. So this is something to revisit either quarterly or annually, because when you have transformations, you change. What means the most to you changes. Your values do change. Like, we might have values that remain consistent, but to know what to prioritize, sometimes it's because they're calling us. Like, our ideal self isn't our actual self. So you may have already achieved certain things like honesty and certain values that they come pretty easy to you. You really do value them, but maybe moving forward, you notice some other values that they really matter to you and you want to become more congruent with them. So this values worksheet is something to just revisit every 90 days or after you've achieved a big goal. Like, really go back to it before you choose your next goal. And we start here every time we're ready to make an important change, because you'll better understand which goal or dream or desire needs the most attention. So again, you might think, I really want to lose 30 pounds. But when you do some of these steps, you realize if you don't actually get this other meaningful area of your life situated first, it's not going to give you the stepping stones, the building blocks to even want that enough to make that change. So I hope that makes sense. So we're going to just get clear on your values. And when you do that, I'm going to give you a little review of what we're going to be going over in just a second, like before we get into the steps that you're going to take. But this is the prerequisite to actually choosing your goal, is to get super clear on your values. Values aren't selected, they are discovered. We don't choose our values reveal themselves to us. So sometimes you have a goal, but it's something that falls into your ought tos. You think you should be that person, or you'd be happier because you believe you're supposed to do this or that, this thing that is a goal. Maybe you've had it for a long time, but I call this the BS in life. And that means we believe stuff that's just not true. It's not true for your ideal self, and it's not aligned with your values or your dreams or your desires. The fact is, maybe it was aligned with your ideal self or those values at some point, but who you are today is not who you were. You are a growing individual, and you have a growing dream. If you are alive and breathing, you are growing. So this is why we accomplish things and we want more, or we want different, or our values change. It's because that's growth. And so when we look at goals and wishes, especially, just make sure that they're actually meaningful to you, that they're not someone else's story or their ideas. You're clear that it's what you want because you value the importance of it, and it's current to who you are right now, today. So in today's workshop, we are going to do a few different sections that are going to help you ultimately walk away with your plan. And this will be the vision that you have right now that you're going to be able to work with, that you're going to keep coming back to, and you're going to be able to achieve this. We're going to talk about the main areas of life, the measurements of how to know how you're doing in each of those areas, and really what needs the most attention, how to choose your goal. We're going to write an affirmation based on that goal, and then 8 important steps you can take so that you're living that goal in a very short amount of time, and then next steps that you'll be able to take to stay on track and to continue this work so that you are in 90 days choosing a new goal because you are already doing the new thing. Like you want to lose 30 pounds. And if that's what you decide, that's your goal, that you're going to be actually living in 90 days, that dream, it's time then to make a new goal. Hi, Andrew. So there is a right way and there is a wrong way to achieve goals. If you want to grow into the person you're here to be and live without regret, you need to grow the right way. And to me, when I think that there is a right way to grow, if you think of any natural thing that grows, you need sunlight, you need nourishment, you need to give yourself some space and the right environment. Sunlight to me means that you're facing your higher power. That's your values that we just talked about, what speaks to your spirit. Nourishment represents good relationships and good self-care. Give yourself space. Like right now, doing this is actually giving yourself some space and time to grow in the right way. So if you have the right environment, sometimes that means taking time to pray or write or reconnect with what just feels good. Even this, like right now, what you're doing, like this stuff needs to be a part of your life. Not all the time, but when you make it a part of your life, then you do end up seeing changes because you're giving yourself the time to grow in the right way. Now, it's not like it happens just by sheer luck. Like if you really want to stop wasting a lifetime and you really want to see some changes and make a transformation actually happen, then you just need to give yourself the right environment and where you're doing that because you're actually paying attention to it. Like if you don't water a plant, if you don't do anything, nature will die. And you are, a living, breathing thing that needs more than food and water. And that's going back to some of the ideal self and the ought self and the values that we talked about. It's just knowing that you're at least giving yourself the opportunity and the discipline to contribute to your growth. So I just want to say right here that sometimes we can look at this world and think like we're here to grow, we're here to learn, or people do their best, or our parents did their best. Now, if that were true, this world would be a lot more nourishing. There'd be a lot more feel-good things just happening all the time. It's your job to align with that, to tune into that, and to create that. And like when we think, like, why aren't we doing, the things like, okay, I want to lose the 30 pounds or I want to make the higher salary, then why isn't that happening? I'm doing my best. Well, the fact is you're here today and we're going to talk about these specific steps. You've heard other things in the past. And if they resonated and you just kind of went on with your life and you didn't actually do them, I'm actually here to call BS on that idea that people do their best. I don't believe that all parents do their best. I don't believe that all people do their best. There is this idea that helps us maybe feel more acceptance, which is important, to just kind of accept things as they are. But the reality is that you have a choice to do your best or not do your best. Our parents have a choice. As a parent, we have a choice. We do our best, which means having some discipline, nourishing ourselves so that we actually have something to give. Like if you are depleted or you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you have nothing to give. That's not your best. If you're not taking care of yourself first, how are you going to show up at your job and be your best? So I just want to clarify that it is up to you to do your best. And this world isn't just here as like this big, awesome learning playground for you. Like you get aligned with what you want and you have that crystal clarity that we talked about, then you will create things in this world and you will attract things in this world that help you to do your best and to experience your dreams and your ideal self. So the wrong way to achieve any goal, if you say, okay, I want to get that promotion, or I want to fit into that pair of jeans, or, you know, that thing that you really are hoping for. And you think, okay, I have all these ideas. I think I know what I'm supposed to do. That's what everyone else did. That's not the right way. What worked for everyone else, I'm telling you right now, if they succeeded and they had a transformation in that area of their life, it is not because of actions that they took. It's because of a decision that they made. So we talked about crystal clarity. I'm just going to keep talking about that because that has to be a part of moving forward successfully with what you really want. So the right way to achieve what you really want, your success, and this dream, we're going to get super clear on what that goal should be. But the right way is to get clear about what you want and who you have to be. Focusing only on the next right thing. And never stopping the belief and supporting the belief that your success is inevitable. And then getting back up every time you fall. You're going to fall and you're going to fall and you're going to fall. And like that story I shared about being in 7th grade and those 2 girls, and you know, I took that right action. I stood up and I got my ass kicked. That, if my belief wasn't so strong that this was over, like this was enough, I was not going to live like with this anymore. And I probably believed it was possible to change because at home, it didn't matter like my size. I was able to hold my own in my neighborhood. And for some reason, this thing that started at school, it made, you know, for a while, for a hot minute, it made me doubt myself. And it made me, you know, think, well, if this happens, or, you know, in that moment, even like she might have been startled for a second, but then she kicked my ass. So like, to me, if my belief wasn't strong enough, I would have just gone back to that awful experience, the relentless, like the singling out that they were doing, the bullying that they were doing. And it wasn't about the actions. And here's the thing, we are going to fall. We are going to take actions and it's not going to work out the way that we hoped it would. Get back up every single time. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. There are 8 main areas of your life: health, emotions, your finances, love, career, social, parenting, intelligence. So that's education. When you open up the workbook, you will see some of the things explained a little bit more. And I believe I actually added, there might be 1 or 2 additional things. We're going to cover these today. We're going to focus on these. And this is how you're going to decide what your goal is. So you have your values. And when you have time, you're going to do the values worksheet. So the values worksheet is going to help you prioritize what really matters to you. Now, you might have an idea of some area of your life here that you're not happy with. That's helpful. Get some clarity on that. Like, okay, I know my finances, or love, or, you know, parenting. And that could be parenting as a parent, or maybe your relationship with your parents, or what I teach is reparenting, the way that we parent ourselves. So you may see that like some of these or all of these are just not feeling great and you really would love to improve them. But there are measurements to look at. And when you measure them, you're going to be able to see, based on human needs, these are human needs that we all have. When you can apply in each of these areas, all 4 of these things. And so you're able to see, okay, security. Do I have certainty in this area? Do I feel safe? How secure are my finances? Freedom. Do you have variety, freedom, adventure? Is there like space in there where you feel breathing room? Like that's important. If you don't have security, you'll never have freedom, fulfillment, or growth. So these go in order. They're basic human needs. And if you look at each area and you measure them for these 4 measurements, see where you're at. And if one is lacking a lot, that is where you're going to focus your attention in this area. But also, we're going to come back to your values. So fulfillment, are you filled up? Is there growth happening, which is progress? I don't care who you are. You could be the most successful person in the world. If you're not growing and progressing in some way, we might think Oprah or these big people, they have like all the stuff and they can do whatever they want. If they are not growing, they are not happy. So they're still growing. Everyone as a human being alive still needs growth. So once you have security, maybe you need a little variety, and then maybe you really like, you fill your bucket, you really need to be filled, and then there's growth. Now there is a couple examples I can give you. So let's say parenting for me. I realize I feel secure. I feel secure in my abilities with my parent, like my parenting. And actually, I do feel filled up and I feel like I'm growing. But those, while they may be there, the thing that's missing is freedom. And it's relating to my parenting. Like as a mom, what I realized, and this was about last month, and I used this method to take a look, like, what is happening? Why do I have this feeling? What's going on here? And I did the measurements and I realized it was my feeling of freedom. And that was so out of balance. Like it was super lacking. I needed to focus on that. By making that clarity, like knowing, okay, that's exactly what it is, then I realized that's what I need to focus on, which helped me make decisions about what needed to be changed or improved. But once I made the connection, I am missing freedom. And it's okay to want freedom as a parent. If I don't actually get it, there's a chance I might run away and never come back. I mean, like, seriously, I could see how people do crazy things. Like, if you actually aren't having a basic human need filled, then you will have behaviors and reactions and thoughts and feelings that aren't good and they're not helping you, but you can't help it. These are basic human needs. So you could look at, like I could look at my spiritual, if we go back. So is spiritual in here? Let's call that love. And if I am not, like, I could feel totally secure with my connection with my source, and I could feel freedom with that and maybe some growth. But if I'm not feeling fulfilled, that's really good information for me. I am going to need to do something to fix that. And if what I need is fulfillment, maybe that looks like going to, a new church or meditating for 15 minutes. That fills me up. Like sometimes I think, I don't want to meditate. And then I just do it. Like sometimes I'll just set the timer for 5 minutes. And if that's all I do, that's great. But like this morning, I set it for 5 minutes and the timer went off and I set it for 10 more minutes because 15 minutes is a good opportunity to just connect with your source, your higher power, like really get the space, the freedom, the security, like all that stuff. And that's spiritually speaking, but those are just some examples: security, freedom, fulfillment, growth. Now, let's say you're going to look at your health, your body. This could be medical issues, diet, your weight. Do you feel, let's look at the security. Do you feel secure or uncertain? Is there something you're dealing with and that basic need is not met? It's very imbalanced, it's lacking. That will be helpful to know where you have to specifically focus on. So we're getting crystal clarity, and that's going to help you get super clear that it's certainty. You need more balance and filling up that measurement, like that in human need, you have to make decisions to create more security and certainty in this medical issue or your diet or your weight or your fitness. And when you know that, you have that clarity, then you'll start to get ideas or inspired to do certain things that we'll get to that. But let's not jump into the actions, because actions, you could take a million busy actions, like thinking you're plugging, the problem, and that's not going to help you. You're not going to stay on track if you're not crystal clear and we don't move forward with something that really resonates with you. So do you feel free or do you feel trapped? Do you feel satisfied or are you unhappy? Are you making progress? Is there growth or do you feel stuck? Your emotions, this is your reactions, your stability, your ability to express yourself. Maybe that means setting boundaries or telling someone you love them. Do you feel secure with your emotions, or is there uncertainty? You're not really sure how you're going to react in a situation. If it doesn't feel good, you might have a reaction and people are going to know, and that's not going to help you in that situation. Do you feel free or do you feel trapped by your emotional health and your well-being? Do you feel satisfied? Are you fulfilled with your emotions and your well-being and how you are in the world? We are all emotional beings. Are you making any progress or growth? So if, like, especially the security one is not, that need is not met, the other ones aren't going to be as important. So start from the top and work your way down. Love, marriage, romance, passion. Do you feel secure or uncertain? Ask yourself all these questions. And here's the thing. Once you go through each of these main areas and you kind of measure it, then you need to take your values. Like, you do that values worksheet that's in the workbook. You just kind of list what is most important to you. You might have things that feel like you have those values right now, where you are currently. You feel that those are most meaningful to you, because if you just had them in your work, in your career, that would be more of your ideal self, the person you want to be. So I hope this is making sense. There's your values. You look at the main areas of your life and see how does your values, what feels like you want to see more of those values in your main areas. So it could be love or social, friendships, community, your confidence in social settings. Ask yourself all of those questions. So now what you're going to do is you're going to choose your goal. Now, funny thing is we spent 45 minutes talking just about the mind work, the discipline, and the structure of actually getting clear on what's important to you, why it's important, because those are your values. That's what your ideal self is calling you to do. If you can connect with that, the universe will do the rest. Like, when you make that decision and like you're connected with your higher self, that makes everything now, all like the last 10 minutes of this workshop, it makes it all easy, because it truly is that crystal clarity. That is what changes everything. And when you feel like you're not getting the results that you want, when you feel that, it's just not happening, it's not happening quick enough, or, all of these things that, like, we're mostly focused on, like, that's the stuff we actually seem to give our most attention to. Go back to your clarity of decision. What's important to me? Why is it important? That's all I need to know. If I'm going to let my mind go down rabbit holes or go into all these other things, that's fine. But just know, like, that's taking me away from that crystal clarity. Again, 7th grade, crystal clarity. Those girls left me alone after that. And it was not because I stood up to them. I got my ass kicked for standing up to them. It was because I made a decision. And I only know that to be true because what was that? Like, I was 12 years old, and here I am now, 30 something. Was that 30 something years ago? And every fork in the road, the only key ingredient that made any transformation possible was not my actions. I could take actions all day. They could be the right actions. They could be what that person did, and that person was successful. They could be all the same things. They could be that I just was unhappy enough, or I had a desire strong enough. Those things are all great. They're important, but we focus on those things thinking that's what's actually going to make the change. That's what's going to get us what we want. But when you are planning your vision, it does not matter what you actually do as much as it matters what you decide. And when you get lost and you fall off track, come back to what you decide. Do like the mental, I mean, this is like a workout. It's like gymnastics. Like, okay, going down that rabbit hole, I'm going to backflip and go back to my decision. What is it that I want? I am not letting any other thought into my mind. I'm not going to have that conversation. I'm not going to speak those words. I am not going to create anything else besides supporting the inevitability of that decision. So choose your goal. Which main area are you going to focus on? You pretty much might know, like maybe you came here today and you knew, okay, this is a career goal. I'm going to want to plan my vision around that. But when you do some work, you give yourself some time to think about your values and you see where you're imbalanced. Maybe there is some other area where you think, if I don't actually focus first on this other area, maybe it's love or emotions, and if I don't focus and get that basic need met, and I don't do some things to take actions around that first, that area that I thought I wanted isn't even going to work out because it's not time. I'm not the person I need to be in order to have that life yet. So you might have gotten some clarity, like, okay, these are the main areas, these are my values, this is what's missing. As much as I wanted to lose that 30 pounds, if I don't get this part of my life, these basic needs met first, I'm not going anywhere. So you can have everything. You can be anything and do everything, but not all at once. And it will happen, but not overnight. So pick it, be selective, have some, retrain your brain, be mentally selective on like, what are you going to focus on? Because trust me, when you quickly accomplish, let's say the security in your emotional well-being, like if that was the thing, okay, that's out of balance, that's what I'm going to focus on. You learn some techniques, you take some actions, you do some work around that, and you get that quickly. Trust me, all the other stuff is being attracted to because that's your ideal self. Your ideal self wants the better job. It wants to fit into those smaller size jeans. Like all that stuff, when you really can get clear on what needs the most attention and you can focus on that, and that's the work you do, it's going to happen quickly because you have like clear direction. But then the other stuff, it's right around the corner. So you just trust it and you'll get there. So what's most out of integrity when you measure your needs? Now, state your desire. And this is in the workbook, but my goal is to create, let's say your greatest need is fulfillment, like fulfillment in my social life. So that's a main area, is social, so that I can live more, if you think of your values, you can apply your values to any area of your life. And so what if one of them is beauty? Beauty is one of your values, or assertiveness, or, if you look, there's a list, there's a couple columns of all the words, and you could think of your own, like what is most meaningful to you to create in your life. And so That's how you're going to state your goal, your desire. And I'm going to be the person I am meant to be, which is your ideal self. So, as an example, my goal is to create certainty in my finances so that I can live with more integrity and generosity and be the person I am meant to be. From that, like, you have clarity of your goal. This is your decision. Now I want you to write an affirming statement. And that affirmation is something that you can carry along around with you. You can put on your mirror, you wake up, you go to bed, you just have that. So it becomes a part of who you are. And a lot of times when we have to change like subconscious beliefs, affirmations are one way to do that. I have certainty in my finances. So it's a very present tense statement. I'm living with integrity and generosity, and that feels amazing. So going back to stating your desire, which is something that you want to create. So you're getting clear on what you want to create, but the affirmation is actually speaking it in a way that is present, and it's already happened. So you're actually speaking, you're affirming your belief in it, that as if it's already happened. So stay clear. Take a few deep breaths. If you do nothing else, do this. You can ask, which is prayer in your writing. It's just a simple breath. If you're ready and willing to just take a breath so that you can stay clear on what you want, that, again, can't say it enough. Inspired action. One inspired action is more effective than 100 non-inspired, busy actions that you think you should be doing. One inspired action is so much greater than 100 other non-inspired actions. So your inspirations are actually going to save you so much time. They just do. You can do it the hard way and it might not work out, or you can relax and do it a much easier way, but maybe it requires courage. Maybe you are inspired to call somebody that will help you, maybe in a job thing, like you feel like this inspired idea, like, I got this idea to like call this person, but I don't want to bother them. And you can kind of like let your brain get involved, and that will screw up everything. Your inspirations aren't really part of your logical reasoning. So if you can just stay clear with your, just your flow, your inspiration, like do those things. That's going to save you so much time and get you to where you are hoping to be a lot quicker. Daily adherence. If you are committed to what's important to you each day, you will not lose sight of where you're going, and you will arrive there. It's a daily thing. Just check in with it each day. Not all day, every day, where that feels like work, but just remember what's important to you every day. Walk the line. I love this. I say it a lot because I use it a lot. So we fall off the line all the time. We forget where we're going. We lose sight of what's important. All of that is normal. I mean, at least it's normal for me, and I see it in everyone else that I coach, and I know that it is something that is going to happen. You're going to fall off track. Where is your line? Your line is your values, what's important to you, what you're choosing to believe. You get back on, you walk that line. You're not going to be able to do your best every day. You're not going to be able to stay on track every day, but you can actually fall off and then get back on. You do have that ability. So massive action. This is something that I know, I did a video on this a while ago, and then I did some more research on how other people talk about it. It's something that Tony Robbins, I think, maybe came up with, but the way I heard it was through somebody else. And we have much different ideas about what massive action is. So he has a whole method to take massive action and what that means. And if you resonate with that, do that. My idea of massive action is so helpful when it comes to taking some actions in the moment because you're, inspired to do that, or you think it's what you're supposed to do next, and it doesn't work out. To me, massive action means I am not stopping until I get to this place. So I am going to continue to take action no matter what, whatever I think the next right step is, until I get to the destination. No matter what happens when I take all the actions to get there, like seventh grade, that didn't work out so well, not the way I expected. That could have made me fall off and never get back on and get my ass kicked, honestly, for the rest of my life. But I know that when I am going somewhere, I'm not going to stop until I get there. Your process to get there is not actually significant. Like the actions you take that don't always work out or feel like they got you anywhere doesn't matter. That's not your destination. You're going to end up exactly where you're choosing in this area of your life, and you're not going to stop taking actions and inspired actions until you actually get there. Just know your destination and just know it doesn't matter. All the stuff that happens up until you get there does not matter. When you get there, you'll know, because that's something that you are very clear about. Your accountability, don't talk about your process with anyone unless they are diehard believers in your inevitable success, which is very hard to find. So as a coach, if you have like a sports coach or a fitness coach or a life coach, a mindset coach, we believe things about you that you don't yet believe. We are not wavering on those beliefs. If you talk to a friend or a family member or a coworker and you're trying to talk about like what you're going through and share things with them, that is pretty sacred, vulnerable information, because our psyches aren't really meant to like handle a lot of opinions. Like it's more important that you don't talk about it and you stay clear every day than talk to anyone. Because what happens when they have an opinion that doesn't line up with, what you know to be important, but what if you're not having like a pretty strong day, or your belief is a little like wavering that day, and then you talk to someone else and then they're like telling you all their ideas. That's their story, that's their opinion, and that isn't your story. That's not where you're going. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it does not matter what they think. There are a lot of other things we can do to connect with people and to form bonds and, foster relationships. If you actually know how important it is that you end up where you're going, I really suggest you work with a coach in that area until you get there, because you will be successful. It's just up to you. Your belief system, that's everything. Again, the crystal clear decision making that we do. Retrain your brain. Choose to spend time with thoughts that only support the inevitability of your goal. That's a choice. So if your brain starts to take you down some path that's like all about these reasons why it won't work out, that's a choice you're making to stay on that train. And you can get off and come back and walk the line and, just come back to where you want to be. But it's going to happen. But your belief system is everything, and focus breeds confidence. So the more focus you can do and the more retraining of your brain you can do, you're going to feel more confident. You will get there. Alignment. Does it feel good? Is it necessary? Is it an opportunity for you to reparent, which I talk about in my coaching program? Do you need to fill a basic human need? So make sure you're in alignment with all these things, and you can replay this video and you can watch like, okay, the main areas, the values, all of that stuff. Now your part, I'm going to tell you these 8 things one more time. Stay clear. Take inspired actions only. Otherwise, you can sit and take a nap or sip a cup of coffee. Daily adherence, walk the line, take massive action. You're not stopping until you get there. It doesn't mean it's hard work. You're going out and conquering the world. You are just not stopping along the way. Your action is all getting you to one place. If this action doesn't work out, take a different one. If that one feels okay, maybe do more of that. You're just going to figure out what's working and what's not working, but it's not the end result until you get there. Accountability. Definitely make sure you're talking to the right people. Your belief system, keep that as, you know, your one real main job is to keep track of what you're feeding your beliefs. And alignment. Just make sure that you're super clear. Now, that's your part. The universe is loving, caring. It has your back. You could call it God. You could pray to a tree outside. I don't care what you're talking to, as long as it's not like your brain. Like, you can go to the ocean, to the beach, or talk to a tree, or talk to Jesus, Buddha, God, higher power, your source. We all have a source. And if you can just connect with it, and it could be universe, it could be just this idea. It can be whatever feels right to you, as long as it's loving and caring and you know it has your back. So the universe actually gives you tons based on your willingness and it might not show up like right away, right now, you get everything you want. Believe me, the universe is just waiting for you. I've seen it so many times in my life and in other people's lives. You have an invisible team that's working for you. That's where your intuition comes from, your inspiration comes from. It literally is like it's calling you, but it's inside of you. So if you get quiet, you will be able to get clear on what to do next. Visioning, take a few deep breaths. If you do nothing else, do this. Use your imagination. Do a vision board. You can write your top 10 affirming statements. So you have one that we're working on to plan your vision for this 2020 or your next 90 days. But you can pick one affirmation for every area of your life, or 10 different goals that you have, but that's fine. The universe can handle it. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. That is something, the fear of, taking an action or what we do and how we do it. Sometimes that's the biggest component. And like I said at the beginning, 76% of people live with regret about an action not taken. You have an opportunity to create transformation in your life. And that's what I want for you. And I know it's possible. And I know what's worked for me. And I know it can work for you too. I would love to hear what you got most out of this webinar. Thank you so very much. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I hope the next 90 days is something that you see some major transformation with. I am so happy to spend this time with you and be part of your life visioning process. It's huge. Thank you so much. I will see you soon.